Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So, good morning and happy month of Vesak, everybody. So, this is our day-long retreat during this month. This is the month where the Buddha was born, where he was enlightened, where he passed away. Vesak is a UN recognized religious holiday, so it's kind of like the big recognized Buddhist holiday, kind of shared by all of the traditions. So if you do have a chance to get out to a temple somewhere, there'll be stuff going on this month, as there is today here at this temple. But also, I mean, we'll get a chance to do what we have the chance to do any day. We don't wait for a holiday to take the chance to practice. And the Buddha said this is the highest form of puja or devotional practice, is to just do what he taught, and to put in conditions for our future liberation and happiness. Yeah. So today, it's kind of always in the back of my mind that there's ever a time where we don't have a theme pr that we choose beforehand. We'll do something. When I was starting out, early times in a monastery, there was practice every Saturday. It would be called a day of mindfulness, and people would gather and you would just do sittings. So we also do this here at this temple where there is no theme, there's no programs, there's no guided Dhamma talks. There is just opportunity to practice as a group. And you apportion the day for sitting and walking, and whatever whatever you might focus on, whether you're really focused on contemplation, or you're trying to just get really stabilized in the eight precepts, you're trying to find a comfort in that lifestyle, or whether you're trying to practice for samadhi, you're trying to get in deeper states of concentration. I mean, the day is presented and it's given as a container for you to pursue that. But kind of the reason it's called a day of mindfulness is no matter what approach you're going to take, mindfulness is encouraged. Yeah, it is kind of the Buddha said it's like how a pinch of salt will improve the flavor of any soup. Mindfulness is this special ingredient that will improve the quality of whatever we're doing, whether it be samatha, vipassana, just practicing the precepts. Obviously, you need a lot of mindfulness to not break the precepts and to be careful of what you're doing. So this is the theme of the day is mindfulness. And in the past, we've looked at the Satipatthana and we've broken it down, and we've looked at section and section, like how is mindfulness established? What is its structure? What's its skeleton? But I thought today to begin the day by presenting an opportunity, a possibility for you to pursue, which is to make a determination today to develop continuous mindfulness for the day. And probably we've all tried this at some point, yeah? And probably we've had, we've had interesting results. We've learned something from our attempts, but we have found that it's not as simple as that, right? Like you can read the Satipatthana Sutta 20 times over, and still when you try to be mindful, there will be gaps. There will be speed bumps. There will be all sorts of things that come up, and you realize after the fact, like you've suddenly gotten distracted for a half an hour thinking about, something you got to fix your car or something, and you realize, oh well, I've been off somewhere else. I've been daydreaming about that. I haven't been mindful. Yeah. And when you do realize, you just reapply yourself and you get back to trying to have steady mindfulness. But from time to time, what we might experience a state of continuous mindfulness. And to be clear, that this is the state of mindfulness that we're inclining towards, we're aiming for. Not just that we have moments of mindfulness where we're aware of what we're doing, but we want to gradually, as the path develops, to have a sense of steady mindfulness to some degree at all times. And that would mean that the hindrances and ignorance is suppressed. That would mean that whether or not we are full of wisdom and understanding of the world and all circumstances around us, we're at least present for it, or at least aware of what's going on around us. Yeah. But in order to put forth this challenge to you appropriately, we really have to look at, like, well, what gets in the way when we try to be mindful, yeah? Because it's one thing to say, okay, let's just develop continuous mindfulness, but it's do you know what gets in the way? Do you know what you're working against when you try to develop continuous mindfulness? And when I considered of how to approach that, because this is what we do, we're often left to our own devices. We read a sutta where it says, okay, be mindful in all postures and all activities. That's what the Satipatthana Sutta says, right? Be mindful when you're coming and going, when you're picking things up, when you're going to the bathroom, when you're eating, when you're sitting, standing, walking, lying down. Be mindful. But it doesn't necessarily tell you how. It doesn't necessarily tell you why that's so tricky. Well, that's one instance of mindfulness that we see in the Satipatthana Sutta. And I said this is like the skeleton, the structure of mindfulness. What is the mindfulness about? What are our anchors? There's another place where we find mindfulness, and we can say, oh, maybe that's where I'll look to figure out how to develop mindfulness. And that is the seven factors of enlightenment. But if we look at that, we realize that no, no, that's actually what's founded on mindfulness. Mindfulness is the first factor, the factors of enlightenment. So developing curiosity and energy and tranquility and concentration, those aren't going to necessarily help lead to mindfulness. The understanding in the seven factors of enlightenment is that you develop mindfulness and then you develop investigation of states and energy and joy and tranquility. Those come about once you're mindful, right? So we got to look in the other direction. And the other list where we find mindfulness come up is actually a good starting place, and that's the Eightfold Path. Because when we look at the Eightfold Path, we find that mindfulness is not at the beginning, it's number seven, which means as we work our way looking through the Eightfold Path, there are a lot of preceding steps. There are a lot of things that you can establish before you're told, okay, now develop mindfulness. And this is the way the Buddha taught. It's called a gradual instruction, a gradual development. So if we look at the Eightfold Path and we see mindfulness there towards the end, we can say, okay, well, the Buddha presented it in this order for a reason. And if mindfulness is there closer to the end, then the things preceding probably make it easier. They are contributing to mindfulness. That's why they're given before it. And this is a good place to start for our activity of developing continuous mindfulness is to start at the beginning, which is the Eightfold Path. So when we try to develop mindfulness and we notice that it's very starting and stopping and difficult, and maybe it takes a lot of effort to even establish it to begin with, we can look and we can start at right view. And we can ask ourselves, is this something I want to be doing? Yeah. Do I have a sense that there is suffering in the world? Do I have a sense that desire is the cause of suffering? Do I have a sense that if I could just get rid of the desire, I would be able to experience peace, right? Is that our perspective? Is that our viewpoint on what we are doing right now? Or do we want to get something, right? And this is a common stumbling block for us when we sit down to meditate is we're often told about deep states of concentration, right? And so we sit down to meditate and we want to get the deep states of concentration, but then we are sitting down with desire. We're sitting down with expectation. We're sitting down with anticipation. Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Which, if we were to check in, that's not right. That's not right view. That's not the right approach. We're striking out right there at the first step because we want to get something from the world. We are putting our happiness, our peace, our sense of stability outside of ourselves and trying to attain it by moving towards it. Yeah. Whereas right view establishes us that, okay, there's nothing to get. Like the world is imperfect. It's impermanent. It has the quality of suffering. Things don't stay the same. They can't satisfy you forever. And they're not me. They're not under my control. They're not possessions. They have their own flow of time, their own activities. Yeah. If we establish that, then we begin to see that, well, okay, it becomes a bit easier to do the next steps in the Eightfold Path. Mindfulness becomes a bit easier. So this is the first thing that we should look at as we try to develop continuous mindfulness is desire. We have to be considering as whenever that comes up. And it comes up in different ways, right? There is desire to get something. Like as we get closer to lunch, we might start to be thinking about lunch. And like, but there's also like aversion. Aversion is a kind of desire. It's a desire to get away from something. So maybe you're uncomfortable, or maybe it's hot, or maybe there's a mosquito in the room. And so your mind keeps like, I just really want to be doing something else. I want to get that mosquito out of here. My knee hurts. I want to stand. Then my feet hurt. I want to sit. These things come up and desire is there. And when desire is present, mindfulness lapses. It's almost something we can count on. Yeah. So to set up continuous mindfulness, we should set up a continuous sense of there is suffering. Things are impermanent. There's nothing I want to get. Yeah. And in the negation, this is saying it's like, well, there's nothing I want to get. That won't satisfy me. That won't satisfy me. That's impermanent. That's not mine, not mine, not mine, not myself. But on the positive side, we want to set up a sense of contentment. Like I have what I need. It might not be perfect, but it's comfortable enough. Like, isn't this great? I have a day to just be mindful, to just relax, to just feel the breeze on my skin and to not have responsibilities and all of the other things that could obsess my mind. I can decide to set them down. Yeah. Yeah, it's not even a whole day, really. It's like half a day when we start adding it up, right? So that's the first step and the first thing that we can look at. But now contingent with that, there's there's some things we can do with that. So we might be able to start to form like a mental list of activities where we're likely to lose our mindfulness. And if we ask, well, why do I keep losing my mindfulness when I do that activity? We will see that desire is the cause. Yeah. When I go and do this one particular thing, I feel like I can't be mindful. I can't be detached and observant during this activity. Maybe it's driving for you. Like maybe you get driving and you see all the cars zipping by and you feel stressed. And you're like, I can't just follow my breath. It's too dangerous. I've got to have my head on the swivel. I've got to be ready for danger. I've got to be looking in all directions. I got to multitask. Or maybe it's when we multitask on the computer. Maybe we sit down at the computer and we're like, okay, I need to look this up and I need to answer this email. And suddenly, bloop, 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 we get all the notifications and our mindfulness just goes out the window, right? Because things pile up. Or maybe we interact with a particular person. Maybe there's somebody nearby, and every time we go and we stand near this, suddenly all of these social customs start filling our minds. Like, am I talking too much? Am I not talking enough? Should I make eye contact? Should I not make eye contact? And we start to, and 5 minutes later, we realize, oh wow, I wasn't mindful at all. right? I was on autopilot with a lot of different sankharas coming up. Yeah, so we can, and this is going to be individual for each of us, but we can, while we're here, you're in your room, you're sitting quietly. People have given you this time to listen to a Dhamma talk and to meditate. You have this opportunity. There's nothing pressing in on you, right? So this is the time when you should make that mental list. And you're like, well, if I'm going to have any success today, I've got to watch out for this activity and this activity and this activity. And if you absolutely have to do that activity, then you've got to prepare for it. You've got to be ready for it. And you've got to say, it's like, I've got to watch for when desire or aversion will come up during this activity. Yeah. But if you can find the time to not do that activity or to not talk to that person or to not check your email or turn on your phone during this time, this is why we do this on retreats. Yeah. We leave our cats at home and we lock up our cell phones and we set, particular parameters for how we talk to each other. Why? We're trying to cut that stuff out as much as possible. Yeah. And this is what you can do. And if you do, you get a bit more chance of success. Now, the second part of the Eightfold Path, if we go down the list, would be right thoughts. And this is very similar to right views, but it's naturally got to derive from right view, right? So right view, the knowledge there is suffering, like my happiness is not out there. It has to be here. It has to come from peace. Right thoughts are, or sometimes translated as right intention. This is going to be an intention towards renunciation, an intention towards non-ill will, an intention towards non-cruelty. And this is a sort of blossoming of our right view, in that when we do interact with the world, when we do think about what we're trying to accomplish, we're also checking in on what we're trying to get out of it. Yeah. So when we're sitting in meditation, are we sitting in meditation to let things go? Or do we want to acquire things? When we go to open a window or close a window or close a door or turn off our phone, are we doing it out of aversion? Are we doing it to try to shut something out? Or are we just, "Oh, okay, I don't need that. I can set that aside. This is not something I need to cultivate right now." Yeah. And likewise, when we tell people, it's like, okay, I'm on meditation retreat, don't bother me, don't bother me. Is that coming from aversion? Yeah. When the cat starts, yowling because you're ignoring it, do you cruelly close the door and you say, no, I'm on meditation retreat, don't bother me? Or because that would be a little insensitive, or do you just take their little hand and you say, no, I need some time. I just need you to understand. And you don't cultivate, a lack of empathy, but you say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be doing my own thing, but I'll come back and I'll get you later. Yeah, and we check in with the mind, everything that we do. What is our intention? Why are we doing it? Yeah. Is this a reaction to the world, or is it simply an action, a choice that we've decided, okay, I'll do this way, I'll do this way, I'll do this way. And often that's the best way we know the difference. If we are able to kind of set the intention to do something and to just carry it out, and we're not doing it because of this feels good or this feels bad, but it's like the smart thing to do, then we have right intention. But if we feel pressured to do something, if we feel I must do this or I must do this now, it's like I can't wait, then we should really check in. This is kind of a red flag that says, well, maybe the intention here is not quite right. Maybe there is a bit of desire, or maybe there is a bit of ignorance at play, and that's why I feel this pressure to do this thing right now. Yeah, because things that are wholesome, they don't scream out, "Do me now." That's kind of how that's why we it takes so much effort to set up a meditation schedule, right? Because the meditation is not screaming like you've got to meditate. Everything else is screaming, you've got to do me, you've got to do me now. But the meditation is always at the end of our list. Like I will get there when everything else is done and wrapped up and the house is not going to burn down and all the chores are done. Yeah. But instead, setting right intention is to say, okay, I'm going to do this during this time. I'm going to follow through on it. And then When things come up after it, then I will attend to them. Now, the structure of the day long, just like a meditation retreat, is set up to support the next two factors, that being right speech and right action. Now, these are the five or the eight precepts, right? And when you're on a meditation retreat, you're interacting with people less. You're doing less activities. So you have far less opportunities to do something that you will regret. But this is also something you can check in with if you're sitting down to meditate and something that you have done recently or some interaction you've had recently floats up to the top of your mind. It's like, I got in a bit of a disagreement with so and so, or there was that spider I found and I reflexively went, and you feel bad about it. And this means you're not a sociopath. It's actually having a conscience is a good thing. It's a good thing to have a conscience, right? We don't frown on that, even though it can get in the way of mindfulness, right? Because when we do something bad, regret comes up. The reason it comes up is the mind is trying to, it's like it has ingested a toxin, and the mind is trying to purify out that toxin, which is what our bad actions are doing. Because if we are trying to get peace, but we have done something violent, then the mind recognizes that hypocrisy. It's like you haven't set the conditions for peace. You've been setting the conditions for discomfort and regret. So that's what we're going to get. And our first sitting might be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. I regret doing that. Yeah. And that's totally normal. But if we accept that, then we'll notice that it does naturally settle of its own accord because the mind it's of that nature. Things are transient. They kind of they we move on from things. But also today, you can look and you don't have to do anything that would potentially bring you up against any of the precepts, right? So those who are gardeners, maybe sometimes when you're gardening, you dig into a plot of dirt and you see worms or bugs or something. Do you maybe have the thought, oh no, I'm relocating them, or oh, I've bisected this particular worm with a shovel. I didn't mean to do that. Do you feel bad about it? Yeah. This is the one thing where we can kind of look at these activities. It's like any other day, we'll just accept that. But if we're trying to set up mindfulness, we have to be careful of these activities because if that does happen, I guarantee you, you will think about it during your next meditation sitting. This is how the mind works. Yeah. Also, for speech, so wrong speech, if we remember, is pointless speech, is gossip, is insults or malicious speech, and is lying, is any sort of untruth. Naturally, if we don't talk to anyone, we don't have to worry about breaking those precepts. Yeah. But probably very few of us have the opportunity to not talk to anybody during the course of an entire day. If you do, great. You've set a great condition to just not have that come up in your meditation. It won't get in the way of your mindfulness. But if you are going to interact with people, then you set that up ahead of time, right? When you're trying to keep steady mindfulness, you're going to have to go slower. You're going to have to talk slower. You're going to have to consider what you say before you say it. But that will actually strengthen your mindfulness because isn't that so different from the way that you normally talk with people? The way we normally talk with people, how is it, right? They say something, we think about it for a second and then we respond, right? We're just we're taught, we're conditioned to respond when somebody says something to us, not to sit and consider what is the best thing to say in this circumstance, and then give a well thought response, right? If we do that, people look at us weird. Like, why did you pause? I wanted to be mindful. Like, what? What? Why? That's not the normal way people talk, but it is a good way to talk if we want our mindfulness to be steady and continuous, yeah? Because talking can be quite a hurdle. And then right livelihood. So as lay practitioners, right livelihood does come up, but probably not today. It's the weekends, you're not going to be doing anything. But just to recognize for monastics, this is something I mean, in order to satisfy that, we had to completely step out of worldly life. We have to have not own property. We have to not be at the uh, center of family dynamics. And to develop mindfulness, you'll have to consider if there's any activities you do that are all about, establishing yourself, making money, developing networks, um, and specifically if you get into anything that is, precept breaking adjacent. Like I've known people who maybe worked at a bar or worked at a casino, and they practice the five precepts. They don't drink, they don't gamble, but they know that what they're doing for a living, it's kind of, it's icky. They're helping other people break the precepts, yeah, to make money. Yeah, so we look at how we make money, and are you trying to make any money today? And money is just a sticky thing, yeah. It can be useful to help pay the bills, to keep the water running, to put groceries in the fridge. But how do we do it? How do we go about it? And if you have the chance to maybe set that aside, that will help your mindfulness because it's a very tricky thing and it's always going to create it creates problems. So if you consider how easy is it to be mindfulness when you're trying to buy a new car? Right? If you go and you talk to somebody who's selling something, maybe it's not a car, maybe it's a phone. You go to get a new phone plan and you go and talk to the salesperson. There's a lot of back and forth and compromise and questions in the back of your mind. Like, is this a bad deal? Are they trying to scam me? Have I read the contract right? That's the nature of livelihood. That's the sort of like stumbling blocks we walk into when we pursue these particular activities. Yeah, so to be on guard for those sorts of things. Yeah. And now we've worked our way through the Eightfold Path, and we get to the most adjacent factor to developing mindfulness, and this is right effort. And the right efforts are for the effort to abandon unwholesome qualities that have arisen, the effort to prevent future unwholesome activities from arising, the preservation of wholesome qualities that we have, and working for the arising of unarisen wholesome qualities. So the wholesome qualities that we want to have. And this is where we can start to do, this is actually where we begin looking at things like the five hindrances. So when you're sitting down in mindfulness meditation, what my suggestion is for today, if your main focus is a continuity of mindfulness, then you're not going to immediately sit and start paying attention to the breath. The first thing you're going to do is like, is there something I'm trying to get? Is desire present? Or do I feel relaxed? Do I feel patient? Do I feel like, okay, yeah, there is suffering. Everything's impermanent. I don't have to be in control. This is my day for letting go. This is my day for relaxation. If you can set that criteria, then okay. Even if the hindrances are present, even if your mind is not quite stable and calm and peaceful, nevertheless, you will be able to recognize that one of the key factors for mindfulness is present. As long as desire is not there gripping the mind, you can be mindful. Yeah. And so then you go and you look at the your precepts and how you've been leading your life. Is there any activities that are going to get in the way? And if you're sitting down in mindfulness meditation, maybe you've set those down. So this is a time for sitting. And now you can actually start to look at what's coming up in the mind. Is there sense desire? Is there anything you want or any pleasant sensations you're inclining towards? Is there aversion? Is there annoyance at anything? A car starts honking or drives by with its radio too loud, and does the mind go, they shouldn't be able to do that. There's noise resolution. Blah, 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 blah. Well, then you say, oh, okay. There's a little bit of ill will there in the mind. There's a little bit of aversion. Or you sit and you're trying to be mindful and you notice that you start to drift off and you start to get a bit fuzzy. Well, okay, there's a bit of sloth and torpor. Then you might want to engage the mind a little bit by having a meditation focus. Then you're like, oh, No, let's pay attention to the breath, or let's pay attention to the sensation of my hands, or let's pay attention to a tone that I hear. Anything you can do to kind of root the mind and keep the mind from getting dispersed and distracted and allowing for torpor to arise. The mind is too anxious. Can you want to focus on something peaceful, something steady, and that can be many things. Yeah. Especially if you're not starting out trying to get samadhi, if you're starting out trying to be relaxed and continuously mindful, well, then you're just sitting in a room. This should, in theory, be intrinsically peaceful, right? You have no responsibilities. You're just sitting in a chair in a room. Yeah. It should be quiet and peaceful and relaxed. And if it's not, you just ask yourself, like, well, why am I agitated? What do I think? And the Buddha, the simile for restlessness is like a slave driver. It's like somebody in the mind saying, you should be doing this. You should be doing this. No, don't sit down. Get to work. And we've probably all had a boss who's like that. And so if we're a good worker, we've finished all of our tasks early, and so we sit down and we start scrolling on our phone, and then the boss shows up and hovers over us. It's like, what are you doing? So, well, I'm done with the things I was supposed to be doing. Well, find something else to do. Get to work. Yeah, I'm paying you. I'm not paying you to sit and scroll on your phone because everything seems to be done. I'm paying you to find things to do. And this is what our mind is like. It's not just bosses that are that way. Everybody has a mind with a little slave driver inside of it saying, no, no, you can't relax right now. This is important. This is important. Got to do this. If you hear that voice, you can say, oh, wait, that's restlessness. I shouldn't follow these thoughts. I shouldn't entertain these thoughts. These thoughts will just, they're going to perpetuate a state of dis-ease, discomfort. Yeah, you can't follow them. You can't give them any credibility. You'd be like, no, 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 no. Today is a day-long retreat. Today is for sitting. Today is for relaxing. Today is for letting go. That's the whole point of the day. There is no should. There is no must. And specifically, Tampamuto told me that whenever should and must and have to show up in my mind, I am to categorically set it aside and deny it. That is not what we're doing today. This is not a you have to do this. And if something says up, I've got to be mindful because the monk told me to be mindful, it was like, even throw that away. That's not a good enough criteria. You have to actually want to be mindful. But part of the challenge is finding the the interest in continuous mindfulness, right? And that's the last crucial hindrance to be looking for is doubt. Yeah. Do you think mindfulness, continuous mindfulness is worthwhile? Do you think it would be nice? Would you like to have continuous mindfulness? If there's any lingering doubt or uncertainty that there's any point to this activity, well, then you should check in with that. Yeah. And maybe to that end, I'll just probably you thought I would give a bit of a sutta reference. And this one comes from the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, where the Buddha talks about the value of establishing um, the four foundations of mindfulness. Yeah. You probably heard this before, but it comes towards the end of the Satipatthana Sutta, which is Digha Nikaya number 22. And the Buddha says anybody who develops these four kinds of mindfulness meditation in the way I've described for 7 years can expect one of two results. Enlightenment, full enlightenment in this very life, or if there's any residue of clinging left behind, non-returning. Let alone 7 years, anyone who develops this mindfulness meditation for 6 years, for 5 years, for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, or 1 year, could expect one of two results, enlightenment in this very life, or if there's residue left behind, non-returning. Let alone 1 year, 7 months, 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. For even a single fortnight, if one were to develop this mindfulness meditation, they'd expect one of two results, enlightenment in this very life, or if there's residue left behind, non-returning. Let alone a fortnight. Anyone who develops these mindfulness meditation in this way for 7 days can expect one of two results, enlightenment or non-returning. The four kinds of mindfulness meditation are the path to convergence. They are in order to purify sentient beings, to get past sorrow and lamentation, to make an end of pain and sadness, to discover the system that is the path, and to realize extinguishment, nibbana. And the Buddha says, that's what I've said about mindfulness, and that's why I said it. Yeah, he declares that he has declared that mindfulness is worthwhile, that it is the path, that it is the way leading to Nibbana, that it is part of the system leading towards Nibbana. So our right efforts can also involve looking at and establishing a sense that mindfulness is good, mindfulness is valuable, mindfulness, especially unbroken mindfulness, is going to lead me in the right direction, is going to firm up my faith, is going to give me a sense of clarity about what's holding me back and what propels me forward. Yeah, mindfulness is of that level of value because, again, it's number 7 in the Eightfold Path. The only thing we have left to cultivate once we've established firm, continuous mindfulness is samadhi. And to that end, getting to the structure itself of mindfulness, if we recognize that all of the preceding factors are present, and at this point, we should be seeing continuous mindfulness. Yeah. We should be like, okay, the mind is not jumping about. There is something, I don't quite know what it is, but there's an awareness that is present right now and it's not going anywhere. But my mind still doesn't quite feel, rooted. It feels like I'm just not confused. I'm clear, but I'm not directed. Well, at this point, this is where the Satipatthana really shine. That's where we start to gradually draw in our attention to just a few specific things, rather than everything, rather than being mindful of anything that's going on. We want to specifically be mindful of the body. We want to specifically be mindful of whatever feelings arise. We want to specifically be mindful of the mood of the mind. We want to specifically be mindful of the teachings that we've heard, of the structures of the Dhamma. That's when the Satipatthana really comes in, when the mind already has a sense of there is mindfulness present, there is a continuity of mindfulness, and then we just need an anchor. Yeah, we just need something so that it's not a dispersed general mindfulness, but a more focused mindfulness. Like I'm being mindful of this. Yeah. And that's when the mind will really shine. And when we cultivate mindfulness unbroken and applied in this way, then we can expect that we have set the conditions for samadhi. That's when mindfulness starts to blossom into something more, something completely different. And samadhi being a level of mindfulness that is unperturbable, that it can't be wobbly, it can't be broken. It takes time for us to come out of samadhi and for our mindfulness to become vulnerable. Yeah. And that's what we get if we develop it, stabilize it, and then anchor it. Right? So this is the activity for the day, and I offer it to you. Again, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but it is an opportunity. If you haven't tried, then for one, you probably haven't been exposed to that line in the Satipatthana Sutta. Because I think anybody who's heard, like, wait, all I have to do is be mindful for 7 days straight and I get full enlightenment. Well, why don't I do that? Right? Probably you tried and you're like, oh wait, that's really hard. Maybe I'll just focus on getting jhana instead. Right? Um, But let's give it a try. And then we'll check in the afternoon. We'll see how things are going and see if we can do anything to get a bit better at this. Because this is a skill, and once we develop it, I can say that it is of great value. And many people, and you might have already worked through this, but many people when they're starting out, they find that it takes a lot of effort to establish mindfulness. The base state of the mind is heedlessness, is just being all over the place. It's chaos. They've never trained their mind. So they have to actually work and they have to establish mindfulness and just like hold it in place. But after you've been doing this, you've done this exercise over and over many times, you start to find that the mind will shift. And it will shift, then, and at some point, there will become a dramatic shift to where you recognize mindfulness is the basic state of the mind, and it just gets fuzzy from time to time. From time to time, you blank out on what you're doing. But as soon as you get done with that activity, you're like, oh, no, no, I was lost there for a second. What's going on? And that's when you begin to understand the continuity of mindfulness and how essential it is to the path. It's like that is something that gets established at each stage of the fruits of enlightenment is this kind of steady mindfulness that can't go anywhere, that can't be broken, that can't be disrupted. Yeah. So it's not just like a fun activity to do on a Sunday. This is a major essential part of the path and also a sign of our development when we recognize we're getting better and better at this. All right, so I offer this today. We'll give it a try. And now we'll begin our sitting and walking. We maybe take a 5 minute break, and then you can decide if you want to sit or you want to walk. And we'll do half-hour sections. Like I said, I've got to step out for Vesak Day celebrations, so I'll just have my screen blanked out, but I'll probably be back by noon Eastern time to wrap things up, and then we'll take a lunch break and we'll come back for the afternoon. Okay. So.